Jesi milostivi čovekoljubiv Bog i tebi slavu uznosimo, Otcu i Sinu i Svetome Duhu, sada i u vekove vekova.
In a world of shadows and secrets untold, where primeval stories make the brave go cold, mighty gods on high and realms below, whispers of legends that shape each soul. And nightmarish dreams, cryptids lurking, nothing's as it seems, giants walking, angels and demons fight, only truth can bring the light. Through the echoes of time, the tales unfold, mysteries arise as the prophecies are foretold, from valiant knights to buried treasure. This podcast brings nothing but pleasure. Yeah. Welcome to mysteries and majesty. Study with us, don't be a travesty. Theology, mythology, fantasy and horror, Dungeons and Dragons to Skyrim and Mordor. Phantom powers haunt the evening, in gothic castles where they're screaming. Wizards cast spells in their towers tonight, exploiting enigmas hidden from our sight. Archaeologists make excavations deep on the ancient tombs where pharaohs sleep. In the dust of ages we chronicles keep, storytelling's power of monsters that creep. Mysteries and majesty is the place for you to learn about this haunted space. From scholarship to manuscripts of old, unlock the secrets of wisdom and gold.
Blessed 2025, everyone. This is the first episode in this new year, and I'm excited. I'm also excited about this weird topic that everyone has been talking about in the last 7 to 10 days. What's happening with all this fog and, in the whole country and even abroad? People have so many theories, including some of those wild conspiracies. So 3 of us will be chatting about this topic. I'll be more on the neutral, skeptical side, and my brothers will present their theories. And I expect to have lots of fun. I would ask if any comments come live, please be kind. Questions are welcome, and I hope you will enjoy as much as we plan to do. For the first time, we're having Jared on the podcast. I have included his website. On the website, you can find tons of wonderful information, articles, stuff like that, but also books that he wrote and that he's selling. So please, if you're able, treat yourself and your family for the Christmas and for the New Year. Buy some of the books, support our brother's work. And yeah, Jared, when it comes to you, what is it that you would like to share with us when it comes to your spiritual, theological background and your books?
Well, so to start with, if anybody's interested in reading the books, if you sign up for my email list, I'm sending them out to everybody who signs up for my email list. The ebooks go out for free. And I do that because when I was young, the way I got books was public library or whatever I could find online. And so I'm hoping that I can bring in readers that way. And eventually, they'll buy the physical books because we all like the physical books for things that we love. That's just something that we all want. So that's why I do that. That's what I'm hoping for there. As far as the theological, I follow Jesus Christ, and I don't have a particular denomination or label that I attach to myself other than just that. I follow Jesus, and I find the Bible to be what would we call it? The court of last resort. It's where we go when we have questions that otherwise we can't answer or disagreements. Hi, Lisa. So yeah. I don't know. That's a brief introduction, I guess. There's a lot more to tell. I could talk for an hour about all this stuff, and I don't want to do that. So I'll let you go on with the show here.
Yeah, before we switch to Shaun, for you personally, why do you think this topic is interesting to discuss?
Well, it actually brings an interesting, I guess it brings an interesting focus to the question of whether or not something should be looked at as being government interference or being some kind of outside sort of, what would you call it? Because that's the way a lot of people look at just about anything new. It's always the government's fault, or aliens did it, or maybe God did it, or whatever. Well, God made the world, so at some level God did it. But the point is, it's always it's always some sort of outside force intervening in our lives. And that, I don't know. I find the whole question interesting, and we're going to have to dive into exactly what portion of that could be considered outside and what portion of it is actually almost certainly just natural.
Hey, that's a wonderful intro. I hope people will be, their imagination will be sparkled by this intro of yours. Shaun, welcome back, my dear co-host. What is it that you would like to say about this topic that is especially interesting to you, and why do you think the audience would like to hear more about this?
Yeah, I mean, this is something that's right now in the public eye. I mean, everyone is talking about it. It's something that is kind of odd. It's not something that we would normally experience. So this is kind of a shared experience between the whole world. Everyone's experiencing this weird fog, and so it's something that's kind of united all of us together. Like, what is happening? Um, I also think that it's important because you do have people who are on the more extreme side that are going with some crazy ideas, and so we also kind of need to bring some balance to that and say, well, what it can we say is natural about this, and if there's anything that is supernatural, we got to use Occam's razor and try to explain away what can be explained. And then when you find evidence that doesn't fit that model, well, then you have to broaden your categories. Um, I think this is something that needs to be talked about because we need somebody to approach it with a level head, you know, and this would be a great forum to do it.
Yeah, thank you. You know what's funny? Just until several days ago, I think the whole country was talking about drones and what's happening in certain states. Is it one of the Middle Eastern countries? Is it aliens? Is it government? And now we're switching to this. I don't know what's happening. Whenever I plan some podcast episodes, I'm like, okay, we're going to do this. And something always happens, at least lately. I'm like, Shaun, we have to, what do you think about this topic? Like, we'll be skipping our video gaming, segments. We'll be skipping our eerie story segments. We'll be skipping so many things. We're like, hey, this is hot, quote unquote. This is a hot topic now. Let's address this. It's like, dude, like, lately it's been every week. I don't know what's happening. So it's like the whole country, and I'm glad that the whole country is not obsessed with politics anymore. But it's like all these weird things happen. I'm like, okay, let's tackle with this. Yeah, let me just read some basic things when it comes to fog, like how it comes to be, what season is usually most normal for fog to form and to stay. So I'll just read a few easily accessible information, and then we'll kick off by watching some videos. By international agreement, particularly for airports and flights, fog is the name given when you can see less than 1,000 meters, which is 1 kilometer ahead of you. This is a little bit over half a mile. Mist, on the other side, is when a person can see more than 1 kilometer and up to 8 kilometers, which is about 5 miles when looking out to the horizon. Fog is most likely to occur at night or near dawn when the temperature of the day is normally at its lowest. And it forms in the morning because it is the coolest time of the day when the temperature drops to the dew point, where the temperatures and the relative humidity approaches 100%. When the ground cools down, so does the air near it. When air cools down, it can hold as much water vapor, so the vapor condenses into cloud droplets, which we see as fog. Since fog is an atmospheric condition that depends on temperature and the amount of moisture in the air close to the ground, it could last from a few minutes to all day. So this is all general, but of course,
Real quick.
sometimes extremes happen. Yeah. Fog is most prevalent during the fall and winter. It forms overnight as the air near the ground cools and stabilizes. When this cooling causes the air to reach saturation, fog will form. Fog will first form at or near the surface, thickening as the air continues to cool. The fog season usually is based in the cooler months, which is late autumn, winter, and early spring. So it's not a coincidence that we're seeing all these weird things in December. This is normal season for many folks to occur. The outright cloudiest place in the United States is Skull Bay, Alaska, with 304 cloudy days per year, and this also, I'll say quote unquote messes up the atmosphere. Now, people have been complaining lately that fog can, is making people feeling weird and dizzy and making their lungs feel weird and all these things. And I just want to say, even if there's nothing with government or aliens or supernatural, fog in general is not the healthiest thing. So I'll just read a few, facts.
Real quick. So you said that fog forms when there's moisture in the air. It can also form when there's a lot of moisture on the ground and you get a warm front coming in over a cold area. So you're right. It's one or the other, though. It's like, and we've got conditions right now that are particularly good for this because it's kind of unseasonable right now. Like where I am, we haven't had snow this year at all up until like yesterday. And that's kind of the way it is across the country. So we have conditions that are very good for this right now, all over the place. Anyway, that's all I wanted to add. Go on.
No, that's fine. I also want to say that I'm thankful also Chicago didn't have so much snow this year. We had once, because besides my full-time job and podcasting, I also have to go and shower. So I'm like, thank you, Lord, that it didn't shower. At least for me, I was happy that Christmas was without snow. So yes, fog can be bad for people's health in several ways. Breathing. Fog can reduce the amount of oxygen in the air, which can make you feel tired and disoriented. Fog can also mix with pollutants to form smog, which can also make it harder to breathe. People with asthma or COPD may have more difficulty breathing in fog. It also deals with irritated lungs. The cold, wet air in fog can irritate your lungs and cause a cough or sniffle. If you have a low immunity, this could lead to bronchitis. Then eye irritation. Fog can contain nitrogen dioxide, which can cause a smarting sensation in your eyes. Choking. Fog can make you feel like you're choking. Cardiovascular issues, so with heart, right? And then especially it's dangerous for elderly people because fog can increase the risk of acute chronic respiratory or cardiovascular disease in the elderly. So I'm sorry if this was a little bit boring for some people, but I just want to say first, there's perfectly reasonable explanation how the fog forms, and there's the perfectly normal season where that happens between late fall until like earlier mid spring. I mean, it happens also in the summertime, of course, but this is the normal season for fog. And also, any type of fog can make you feel sick or dizzy or mess up your breathing, especially for elderly people. So people reporting makes them feel sick. For me, again, I'll be skeptic and agnostic tonight when it comes to this topic. I'll say like, well, there's nothing unusual, supernatural that fog can make someone feels like this or that. So that's my position. And before we switch to the more eerie and bizarre things people happening, I just want to watch several very quick short videos of people experiencing thick fog over the world in the last 10 years, so we can see, even though we do know that this is normal, but I want people to see, because nowadays everything that happens, people tend to create theories and add more wild stuff that are following these things. Anything that happens nowadays, we like to spice it up. When I was talking with my Latino buddy at work about the fog, I'm like, man, have you heard about this? He said, no, like and then he would say, when we were kids, and he's older than me, we also experienced weird things, but back then there was no like internet. There was no like network or people being connected and talking about all these things and information spreading fast. We didn't care. All these things for us were normal. We just go outside and play mind our own business. I'm like, there is truth in that. I'm not saying that everything that was happening in his time and things that happen nowadays are completely the same. But I'm just saying that even back in the days, weird people were happening, but people didn't spend so much maybe time or energy talking about this. But now with the internet, everyone can start a channel or make a video and propose a wild theory, and over the night a video can go viral even without you knowing about it. So let's first deal with some completely normal natural formation of fogs, thick fogs, especially in the last 10 years throughout the world. Okay, so this one is let me see, because I want to address it properly. This was 1 year ago, and this was in the States. And this is in New York. Okay, this is Ohio. Illinois, this is not that far from me, right? So weird fogs happening. Again, very short videos. If anyone want to comment in the meantime, you're welcome until I find the next video. But for me, so far, it is mysterious and it is like fascinating, but it's like nothing supernatural so far, right? Okay, let me see. This is the video from 2 years ago. Yeah, let me see what was happening.
What's being called a super fog in Louisiana led to a pileup of 158 cars, killing 7 people and leaving a string of crumbled and charred vehicles on a bridge over Lake Marepa. We leave you with this report. I'm Susan Tehrani signing off from New York. I'll see you tomorrow.
Okay, again, that they're all short videos. Now I have from a couple weeks ago. This will be in Miami. Another case of extreme fog.
And we start this 9 o'clock hour with a look at what most of you are waking up to this morning or woke up to already. Check out our Miami-Dade downtown camera from about 2 hours ago. Looks like something out of a dream. The skyrise floating in a sea of clouds amid that heavy morning fog.
What a gorgeous scene. Here's what some of our viewers were witnessing when the sun was getting ready to rise. Another look at Miami skyline. Shrouded in fog, this was taken from the 11th floor of the courthouse. And here's another view from the 29th floor. Just a few lights visible through all that thick fog. And thanks to the security team at the courthouse for sending those pictures to us.
Wow. All right, let's see how things are looking right now with our tower cameras. We are still seeing some fog out there burning off a bit and some clouds pretty much everywhere. Almost 9 a.m. temperature at 64 degrees.
It's not going to stay that way for long, though. We are headed for a big...
Yeah, there's no reason to watch everything, just that most interesting part. And now let's switch to 3 years ago, what was happening in Sydney. So unfortunately, there's no comment. It's not a newspaper, a news report, it's just video. So this is in Sydney, Australia. I mean, this looks
pretty.
Jared, like in one of your novels. Come on, admit it.
Oh no, it's pretty, man. It's pretty.
I think it's a combo of beauty and something spooky. You know.
Well, I think the argument that people are making is just that it's in so many places at once. You know, it isn't that fog isn't normal. Of course it's normal.
No. Yeah, I know, but I still, but people are also saying, "Oh, I've never seen a fog thick like this," and I want to show them that no, we've been having thick fog since forever. The point that we'll make later is like, well, what is in the fog and why does it stay for so long? So yeah, those questions can be interesting, but I'm just intentionally doing this as the background. Of course, we know that fogs are perfectly normal and natural, but people are saying that fogs like in the last 10 days have been thick like never before, and I just want to show them, well, that's not really true. That's my only point. Okay, so this is in China, and this is 3 years ago. This is like in some dystopian movie or a novel. It is beautiful. Okay, so we don't have to dwell too long. Let me see. I just have 3 more quick videos, and then we'll switch to what's happening now. Okay, this is
There's a beast on the prowl in one city, devouring everything in its path. John Blackstone reports this beast has its own Twitter account.
In San Francisco, it's a typical summer day. The fog is in. High points on buildings and bridges may poke into the sun, but much of the city is engulfed in gray.
It's foggy.
Presenting a challenge for tourists searching for that perfect picture of the Golden Gate Bridge.
The main thing is the Golden Gate.
The Golden Gate, where is the Golden Gate Bridge?
I have no idea.
While this weather pattern may disappoint some,
We came to enjoy the view.
many others are now on a first-name basis with San Francisco's fog.
I know that Carl the Fog is ever present here, so.
Who?
Carl the
Who's
Fog.
Carl?
The Fog.
Carl the Fog came out of the fog from someplace this year, and now it's gone viral.
On Twitter, Carl the Fog has 360,000 followers. This weather system also posts selfies on Instagram, proudly showing his impact on the city.
Okay, that was 5 years ago. I have 2 more short videos. This is what was happening 10 years ago.
But no matter what the season, locals can always count on one thing: heavy, dense fog.
The fog can roll in rather quickly. You can go from a beautiful, bright, sunny day, and within 20 minutes, you're fogged in. Sometimes it's foggy for 2 weeks at a time.
Fog can be dangerous and mysterious, and it also plays a significant role in the legend of Catherine's Hill.
Catherine's Hill is right about 960 feet in altitude. So the fog that forms on Catherine's Hill comes in off the Gulf of Maine and then starts climbing as it goes inland. Driving can be a real hazard because you may only be able to see only several feet in front of your car.
American Supernatural Sun.
Okay, one more video from 10 years ago, but this one was very important so people will see that the fog can come suddenly and can stay longer than just 24 hours. Even though 24 hours, as we read from information that I pulled from different articles on Google, it still can stay based on the environment, temperature, and everything coming to that, from the context of the weather, it can still last for longer than that. So that was very important for us to see that these things do happen. And the last video is also short. It comes from Dubai, and again from 10 years ago.
Dubai, United Arab Emirates, December 2012. The Middle Eastern city's famous skyscrapers protrude through a carpet of thick fog. At ground level, visibility is just a few feet. Even when the hot sun rises high in the sky, the fog doesn't instantly burn off. So why is a dry desert city like Dubai being subjected to such cold, dense, and durable fog? This is the strangest weather on Earth.
Okay, so we saw several videos, mostly from the country, but also from a few other countries, between 2 and 10 years ago, that there are many places, depending also on the season, where the thick fog, is happening. People cannot see well. It can stay longer than just few days. People think it's mysterious, it's scary. So we see a lot of similarities to what's happening now. I'm not saying it's the same, but I'm saying at least there's some small pattern. Before we switch to what has been happening in 2024 and the beginning of this year, Jared, would you like to comment on anything that we saw in these several videos? What would be your overall conclusion?
Oh, I don't know. I mean, fog is a part of the nature and has always been there. And yes, it gets thick, and yes, it lasts a long time. And the only thing that as my understanding of the claims that have been made is just that they're seeing it in more places and with some strange characteristics compared to before. I don't know that I had never seen the one that it's thicker than before. I hadn't seen that claim, but maybe somebody was making that claim. I don't know. I mean, what you've shown so far seems to me to be pretty much just how the world works, right? We kind of know that.
Yeah. But for me, that's like when you're writing a research paper or having a sermon, this is the foundation. This is like, hey, let's start with some things that we will all agree. These are the facts. And from there, we're going to, where the evidence is leading. So
right. And I agree with the approach. I'm just saying, I don't see anything beyond that. That's what I'm seeing.
Yes. Thank you. Okay, Shaun, any comment?
Yeah. So I think that we need to recognize that, fog staying for multiple days, it is strange. I mean, strange enough to get on the strange weather, right, episode. So it's not that it's not natural, just that it's strange, right? It could be odd. Thick fog is something that happens, but it's odd when it does happen. So I think that, on one hand, people are kind of justified in looking at this kind of weird, like what is happening, because it's not something that is normal for all locations. In certain locations, like in San Francisco, you would expect to see more fog. But I think that people who are seeing it where they normally don't see fog as prevalent, they're kind of justified in at least looking at it and saying, what's going on here?
Oh yeah, absolutely. And I think that's one of the beauties how we're made in God's image, to marvel at this world, to ask questions, to be able to discern, gather data, and be thinking critically. So I love that part. And people have been asking me, hey, have you seen anything weird in Chicago? I'm like, no, sorry. I wish. I feel like sometimes I'm like this agnostic in the church and in general in my life. Everyone is talking how like they experience demons, they experience seeing ghosts, they experience seeing Mothman, they experience seeing Dogman. I'm like, dude, I never seen things like that in my life. And for most of those things, I'm thankful I did not. But sometimes there's like this almost like regret, like how come I didn't hear God's voice? How come I didn't see at least something in the distance, but from a safe distance, of course? How come all these people are making podcasts and writing books and they're like, oh, I witnessed this, I heard this happened to me, someone, or God touched me, or an angel, I was healed instantly. I'm like, I don't have those experiences. So for me, I believe them, but it's like, it's like I would like also to experience them in a way. So for me, that's my approach. I'm approaching from this whole perspective. Like, I'm a skeptic, but if there is something mysterious and something supernatural, I would love to learn. Now we're switching to the events happening the last couple of weeks, and there are gazillion videos over there. They're very you can't find too many personal videos, but you will find videos that are made by news report companies, agencies, but it's more of general, like, hey, we're at this town in this state, this is happening, blah blah blah, and they just go home. There's nothing more that someone actually went and investigated or connected the dots. It's hard to find those sources, so we'll be tackling with more of those general videos for now. And I think almost every state has reported mysterious fogs in the last couple of weeks. So let's deal with the first one, which is in Southern California.
Delays and cancellations continue across the country this morning amid the busy holiday travel crunch. You're looking live at LAX this morning, which is being impacted not only by the fog that still seems to be fairly dense at this hour, but also delays in other parts of the country caused by severe weather. Thousands of flights have been delayed in the past 3 days. At LAX, flight delays have jumped this morning from 60 to 126. And we have 2 more cancellations to report, raising the total to 8 canceled flights.
Okay, now we're switching to Florida.
Frustration is continuing to grow after foggy fireworks put a damper on New Year's celebrations along the Gulf Coast. NBC 2's Mohammed Abdul-Qawi is on Fort Myers Beach, why some are asking why the town didn't postpone them.
I spoke to several people today here on Fort Myers Beach, and they told me they're upset about yesterday's fireworks show. The town of Fort Myers Beach told me today they actually had plans on delaying that event until today. However, Mother Nature had different plans.
My gosh, I mean, you couldn't see anything.
We heard a lot of fireworks, but we didn't see a one.
That's the reality that tourists and locals had to face before 2025. No fancy fireworks. There's a foggy sky changing colors on Fort Myers Beach.
The fog, it was more like just seeing lightning strikes. You know, you didn't see a beautiful firework that they paid thousands of dollars for. So it's a shame that the fog came in.
Betsy Cusimano and her husband visiting from New York were worried as well. They decided not to go to Times Square last night because of the fog.
Yeah, it's sad because a lot of people travel too, probably with, the vacation being nice 2 weeks off from school. At least where we're from, we had 2 weeks off. So that's why we traveled down here. So I'm sure there was a lot of tourists that wanted to see it as well.
The town told us they had planned on delaying the event to today. They had their eye on the fog. They were hoping it would go away by 10 in the morning. When the fireworks crossed the barge, the town said the show would go on or the money would be lost.
Very disappointed, I'm sure. And, as we were going to come down here. We're only less than 2 miles from here. We didn't want to drive in the fall to come down here just because we couldn't see the fireworks anyway.
This event was planned months in advance. The town added that postponing this event has to be done in a reasonable amount of time.
But I'm sure locals are really upset that they weren't able to see the fireworks.
For others, they know fireworks will always be there.
We do not plan.
Okay, let's see what's happening in the same time abroad in a couple of countries. And I think that will be when it comes to videos, then we'll switch to some articles. So this is happening in Delhi. So in India. Okay, let's see what's happening in England. By the way, in India, it got even worse. So that was the video from several days ago. Now they're posting videos with even thicker fog. So I'm not a meteorologist. I can't explain why, but it's interesting. So this is in UK. Okay, and the last one is from Turkey with, unfortunately, sad ending. So if you are sensitive or is getting emotional, I would suggest to skip the next minute or two, maybe to turn off your camera and come back. But I still wanted to show you that some weird thing happened here. It's not so weird as much as tragic. So this is in Turkey. This happened recently.
This chilling video shows the final moments of a helicopter before it crashed in heavy fog, killing all those aboard. 2 pilots, a doctor, and a healthcare worker were in the helicopter when it took off in extremely poor visibility on December 22nd in Molga, Turkey, to pick up a patient. Just moments after liftoff, the chopper began moving toward the hospital, shrouded in thick fog. It subsequently crashed into the building's 4th floor. No one inside the hospital was hurt, but damage to the upper floors of the building was visible in the aftermath. The exact cause of the crash wasn't immediately confirmed, but the province's governor noted the heavy fog in a statement to the media.
Okay, now I want to show 2 very short videos there, getting more into the substance of what's happening, more from the weird/bizarre thing. So far, we saw several videos from the last 10 years about the fog, thick fog happening throughout the country and the world. And we saw what's been happening the last 10 days in the country, but also Turkey, India, UK, and stuff like that. So this is the season where fogs happen. And unfortunately, sometimes, people die, like in this last video. Now I want to switch to the first very unusual video. Unfortunately, it is a short one, but I think it will be very important for this topic for tonight to start dissecting. So all of this was just an intro. So it was a 40-minute intro. So I want to show you guys, it's an extremely short video, but that's okay. It's called Unusual Fog Phenomenon Raises Alarm Across the US and Europe. Again, it's a short one, so I'll let it. Okay, I'll pause it here because I think it's important for us to leave it in the background. Okay, I don't have to be an expert to see that something is weird. And people have been talking about this the most in the last several days. They say something is in the fog. It's like, but it doesn't even feel like real fog. Like something is flying in the air. We don't know what is it. We think it's something that can be poisonous or causing people to be even more sick. People are concerned and having all these wild theories. Jared, what is it when it comes to at least your first theory that, that can be behind this?
I don't know exactly what's behind that, but when I looked and I saw a similar video, some lady in Florida talking about something almost exactly like that. Doesn't look like fog to me, man. That looks like something else. It looks like some kind of particulate in the air. And in places where they experienced that, they didn't have moisture on the ground. They had residue on vehicles and such, and it was just strange. And so the question is it fog or is it something else? And I don't know.
To me, it seems like it was fog, but when they use the flash lamp, they can see actually more than they would see with just merely looking, with their eyes. So I think it doesn't have to be either or. For me, it seems like it is definitely fog, But like with all these particles flying, if it's not snow and if it's not ash, then what is it? I don't think there was any active volcano there, and unless there was a forest fire or a factory exploded or some storage or whatever. So if there was no natural disaster, if there's no human catastrophe in anywhere nearby, what can cause these flying particles to fly, and what is it besides the fog? So I think we're dealing here with natural phenomenon and also something else, and that is what bugs me. Like, what is that flying thing?
Right. Well, and I took that video, or one very similar to it, and I played that one next to one where somebody had just a flashlight out in normal fog, and the difference is pretty stark. What that actually looks like is like somebody went out in a snowstorm, but the lady who was talking about it was in Florida, and it was in the past couple of days, and it was not snowing in Florida in the past couple of days. So I don't know what it is. I'm not sure, but you're right. It makes you think ash. It makes you think, what actually occurs to me is maybe there's some kind of dust storm going on in those areas, because that could explain something like that. Some kind of powdery, what else is there? Like when we have dust storms around here, it looks similar enough to fog that you couldn't tell the difference if it was dark, and you could get something like that. That's the best explanation I can come up with that would be a natural one.
Yeah, that's a good one. And okay, let me see what Shaun has to say, and then we'll go back to you if you want to say something that that is not natural, that can be either supernatural or man-made. So let me first hear from Shaun, and then you can go back.
So when I first saw this, I didn't see it on a video. I was at work when I saw it, and I assumed when I first encountered it that, oh, okay, these are security cameras. It's probably infrared, so it's probably projecting an infrared light, and then the light is reflecting off of the water particles, and so we're getting a reflection. That's probably what's happening. But then I'm seeing all these other videos, and they're definitely not using infrared cameras. This is just regular light cameras. So these are, what it's capturing is some sort of particle in the fog. Now, like Jared said, it could be a dust particle. It could just be like smoggy pollution, and so then you've got this, debris in the fog, but it's definitely not regular fog. So yeah, I myself was like, I wasn't too taken aback by it when I saw it, because I was like, oh yeah, infrared camera, that makes sense, because moisture in the air can create that sort of artifact on the lens. But yeah, this is something different.
Okay, let me hear Jared's not natural theory, and then Shaun, I'll be back to you.
Okay, so to give a little context for this, it's obvious to me that most of the fog that is happening right now is natural. Like around the country, whether it's San Francisco, Florida, whatever, most of it is natural, and that the weather conditions right now would actually be perfect for it. It's the right time of year, it's the right set of circumstances. So then I asked myself a question. If I wanted to, let's say I was in some kind of government organization, or some group that wanted to do something nefarious that had characteristics like this, what would be the perfect time to do it? Well, you would want to do it when natural fog was happening, if you weren't wanting people to catch on. So let's say there is some percentage of this stuff that isn't normal, or that isn't natural, or where there is some kind of outside interference. If they're not wanting people to catch on, now really is the right time to be doing it, because they've got all this cover of normal natural fog to work with. Okay, so that's the first thing. Second thing would be as far as particulate goes, I really don't know. I saw some people suggesting some things that seemed pretty far out to me. I'm not even going to go there right now, but I saw people suggesting all kinds of weird stuff. To me, though, the most obvious question is, because we are actually the question that we're not asking, but that is obvious to me to ask, is why is the weather so abnormal right now? Because there are some, we know that there are like 22 companies that are commercially doing cloud seeding in the US. That's actually a thing. You can look that up basically anywhere. That's real, true information. So we know people are messing with the weather. Why is the weather the way it is right now? Because we are having fog in places where it wouldn't be normal to have it right now. So we begged that question. That's a good one to be asking. And then maybe there is something that people are trying to, some group, I wouldn't know who, is trying to do here, but I don't know what. I'm not one of those guys who gets an idea and goes, oh, this is what's going on. I need to see more information, man. And I'm not seeing information. I'm seeing a lot of possibilities.
Just for the sake of the context for myself and for the audience, when you mentioned those 22 companies, can you just please summarize and tell us briefly what is their job to do? How would they even get license and permission from the government to do whatever they're doing?
I actually don't know how that process works. I just know that you can even go look it up on like Wikipedia, that there are companies that are doing commercial cloud seeding. I know what cloud seeding is. Cloud seeding is when you take a plane and you put some substance out of the plane in a sort of a fogging manner that is intended to condense clouds around it in the atmosphere. And they do it for the purpose of bringing rain in times and places when it wouldn't normally be, stuff like that. That's all pretty standard stuff. And exactly why they're doing it or how they're doing it or whatever, I don't know. But I know that there are 22 companies in the country that are actively engaged in that. And that's kind of strange.
That reminds me of the, back in the days, I'm talking about thousands and maybe even tens of thousands of years ago, when in the place of the globe where monotheism wasn't spread, people would be praying to their gods, sacrificing so that their crops would be, succeeding, for all these different agricultural reasons. And now man has made himself almost a small god, G, that is able through science to manipulate through the weather. And I don't know all about this. I'm just learning this from you. And it's so interesting how back in the days that we have to pray to gods, sacrifice, expect for the rain or clouds or whatever to come. But nowadays, men have taken things into their own hands. Like, oh no, we'll do this for ourselves. And I don't know. As I'm listening, I'm just making those connections out of blue. I don't know why. I'm just saying that it could be also some of these things could be. I'm not saying they are. I'm saying could be, maybe even spiritual. I don't know.
Well, that's totally possible. My wife actually pointed out, we were talking before I came on here, and she pointed out that in Job, when God withdrew his protection from Job, there were people who came and did things, but there were also storms that flattened houses and other such things. And we know that spiritual forces are capable of doing some of those things. And that actually, to me, is a bigger and more interesting point in a lot of ways, because we don't know how they do things. We don't know why they do things a lot of times. Their motives are not things that we have easy access to. So to say that some of these things where people are finding strange smells in the fog or strange, particulate or whatever, that there isn't some kind of spiritual thing going on, I actually think that's a lot more likely than some of the more conventional explanations when it comes to government. That's just me.
Can I respond? There's a person in the comments that is, I think they're conflating chemtrails and cloud seeding. you know, chemtrails are, you know, what follows on the back of planes, and then you can see it, and then it disappears. Cloud seeding is actually something that's been experimented with the military. We have a certain level of.
You mean contrails?
Yeah, that. So cloud seeding is a completely different thing, where you introduce something into a cloud. And this is what you were talking about, Jared, but I'm clarifying for the person in the comments. It's when you introduce something into a cloud, because the water in the cloud is too pure and to freeze. There's nothing crystalline for it to form around, so it doesn't form ice. It stays in a super cooled liquid state. And so they need to introduce a seed core to it in order to have it produce the ice particulate so that the rain will fall. And so you don't just drop a line of chemicals in the sky and expect it to form a cloud. What you do is you drop it over a cloud, and then that causes the cloud to rain on that particular area. So they did this in 1947 with Project Cirrus, where they were trying to find ways in order to basically burst the clouds. And so they dropped dry ice on the clouds. After that, they found out that silver iodine does the same thing, and it's cheaper, it's easier to manage. And so from 1948 to I think like 1985, they were involved with Project Storm Fury, where they were actually trying to break down like hurricanes. And it didn't work because they couldn't predict what the hurricane was going to do. And so there was too many times where they ended up dropping their payload into the hurricane, and then it crashed onto shore when it was initially going away from the continent. So they're like, well, that's it. Regardless of what we're going to do, it's not safe to do. From 1966 to 1972, Operation Popeye was happening in Vietnam, where you had the Ho Chi Minh Trail, and you had the Viet Cong transporting goods, and they wanted to make it impassable. So what they did was they tried to extend the monsoon season by dropping all of these, the silver iodine into the clouds in order to continue the rainfall, make it so muddy that they weren't going to be able to transport their goods. So we actually do have evidence that while this does work, we also have commercial companies that are investing a lot of money in doing it. And we know China is investing a lot of money in doing it, and it's causing areas of India that border China to become very arid because the precipitation isn't getting there. They're letting it all fall on China. And so it's actually kind of controversial, but yes, it does work.
Thank you for that, Shaun.
Yeah, thank you. Sometimes when I'm listening to Shaun, I'm like, this dude, I don't know how he has all this info stored from all his new age years. But then even when he became a believer, he's like, oh yeah, this saint, oh yeah, this doctrine, oh yeah, this was a historic event, oh yeah, this was this project or operation. I'm like, dude, where did you, how big is your brain? How many terabytes of data you have over there? Like, it's amazing. Yeah. Okay, let me just share another little bit longer mysterious video, and then we can comment on that one.
Okay, I am not one for conspiracy theories, but I've been seeing these videos about fog. Okay, everyone gets fog, right? But they're saying how bizarre the fog is.
Happy New Year's Eve, and you won't believe what's happening across the United States. Apparently there's some type of fog and people are getting sick and having headaches, and you're not going to believe it. It looks like something out of a Hitchcock movie.
It's a fog here in Minnesota and Wisconsin.
Guys, everybody's talking about this fog, and I was like, yeah, it's been kind of foggy, but I mean, it's been rainy and shit, and I haven't really been thinking about it, you know? But man, it's 12 o'clock noon in Oklahoma. What the I'm in Los Angeles area. We get some, you know, fog once in a while, but I can't see anything past my property. Okay, I am not one for conspiracy.
Okay, so this was a comment of few people, mostly from the States, and one guy in UK, again, speaking about the recent, fog bizarre event. They say it's so thick and also happens in the weird time instead of the morning and then leaving. Later it's also, just staying there, like even at the noon hours. To me, nothing so far in this video shows to be super mysterious or something that is not natural, except again when we see this short video again, that there's some flying particles in the fog. But so far, would you guys agree with me that even though it's a nicely short, made video with this mysterious eerie music in the background, but we cannot say that none of this didn't happen before. This is why I was playing all those videos so far, so people can see, oh, this is actually very normal. We just don't pay attention so much to it, or maybe it didn't happen in my area so often. But so far, would you, Jared, let's start with you again. Would you say that most of it is completely normal?
I think the only thing about it that you might say is abnormal is that it's happening in so many places at once in a way that is not, not normal for this particular season. It isn't like we see this much fog in this many places at this time all the time. That's the only thing about it that seems the slightest bit abnormal to me. And that could just be an artifact of the weather. We're having a little bit strange weather.
Yeah, I don't know. Oh, Shaun. Okay, yeah, your turn, buddy.
Yeah, I mean, fog is something that happens. I think that it's the odd thing about the fog is just how widespread it is, and I mean, it's possible that weather phenomenon can be happening at multiple places at once. But like any other weather phenomenon, if every major city that you knew of was experiencing a thunderstorm at the same time, you'd probably raise an eyebrow, like, what's going on here? It's possible, but it's not very probable. So yeah, I think people are justified in saying, what's going on? This is weird. And like Jared said, we are experiencing some weird warmness, and there was rain recently here. And so there's a lot of things that are happening that normally don't. So maybe it's been an out of character winter, and so we have out of character fog. But yeah, I think they're totally just saying it's weird.
You're right. And you could point to a number of different explanations for that overall weather pattern that is weird. We could just say, oh, we're coming out of the little ice age still. We're still warming up. The climate is warming up because of that. And so things are a little warmer this year than we're used to. That's totally possible. Or you could say, oh, HARP is being used to screw with our whole weather system, and you could go into those weirder explanations. You could point to that one. Maybe there would be some truth to it. I have no way of knowing, but the point is, yes, it is, the weather is different from the way it normally is. Maybe there's reason behind that, but that could be the reason for the fog that's everywhere. And yeah.
Okay, gentlemen, I think I'm gonna share a few articles with all of you. One stopped working, which is very interesting because for some reason it works in Mozilla Firefox, but with that it's very hard to share the screen. But in Chrome, where I'm sharing all these tabs and screen, where it usually works perfect, it doesn't want to load. It just disappears. Anyway, let's see what Daily Mail is saying about this topic. It says, mystery as thick fog sweeps the U.S. with reports of quote-unquote burning chemical smell in the air. And I just want to say, I know it's not the same thing, but I still want to compare this to a couple of years ago. If you guys remember, there were those wildfires in Canada 2 summers ago, so less than 2 years ago, and they were coming all the way to Chicago and so many different states. For days and days, it was unsafe for us to go out and breathe the air because it was polluted, and you could feel horrible smell in the air, and it was very unhealthy for us. So I'm just saying, just because you feel certain smell, it doesn't have to give it some mysterious or paranormal explanation or background. Like, things happen. Like, we were having wind blowing from Canada to Chicago and other states, this different smell. Like, things happen. Just because we don't always have the answer doesn't mean it's like something like, aliens or the government did it. I'm not saying
know.
no one's playing with it. I'm just saying that sometimes we should not jump with conclusions.
Wyoming has had a huge amount of area burn this year. I mean, it isn't like there aren't still fires going on.
Yeah. Okay, let me go back to the article. It says a thick fog is sweeping across the U.S. with locals in multiple states reporting how a burning chemical-like smell has blanketed their communities. Concerned Americans have flooded social media with videos of what looks like white particles raining down with swirling in the air. And this is what we just talked about. Some witnesses have also claimed that fog has triggered health symptoms similar to a respiratory illness. Nothing weird about it. We started our channel by reading what fog does to your health, and it doesn't do anything good. So this is perfectly normal. I mean, not perfectly normal. It's just natural thing, But especially if it's mixed with something, then yes, it will cause more problems to your health. A Florida resident told DailyMail.com that they stopped at a gas station for about 10 minutes and began feeling ill. Within about an hour, I kept sneezing over and over for about 3 hours, and my eyes were really puffy, she said. I got very warm, and I felt like I had a fever and my stomach was cramping. Parts of Texas, Wisconsin, Iowa, Maryland, Virginia, West Virginia, Nebraska, Kansas, Oklahoma, North Dakota, Florida, and Minnesota were under fog alerts when the bizarre reports surfaced this week. So as we can see, at least 1/3 of the country, if not more. Similar experiences have also emerged from parts of Canada and the UK, sparking widespread concern. Conspiracy theories are running rampant, with people suggesting the fog could be a kind of chemical weapon or is related to the drones that mysteriously plagued the nation in December. David Bamber from St. Petersburg, Florida, said that the weirdest part is the taste and smell of the fog. It smells like the aftermath of the fireworks show, and it tastes quote unquote toxic. So now there's a question mark. Could this be a chemical fog? Parts of Texas. Okay, we already read this. Now this is him. This is someone's saying, well, weren't there drones that sprayed something? I seem to recall some videos of that somewhere. No idea of the validity though, asked one of the X user. A Texas woman shared on X that her dog has seen acting strange when it goes outside. She keeps smelling the air, Sandra Jenkins Webb posted, adding that she was experiencing burning eyes, a mild cough, stomach aches, and headaches. Another woman in Kansas shared that there were massive amounts of chemtrails over the area in a week, followed by a dense fog. And a California resident shared on X Monday. Here in so-called unusual fog the last few days. Strange smells, but I've been noticing the smell for months now. Burns my nose. Seems like an all-out assault from the skies the last few days. David Bamber we already read this. He explained that the fog typically dissipates later in the day. A guy called David, not very relevant, but the current natural phenomenon lingers into all hours of the night. So this is his explanation. The weirdest part is the taste and smell. It smells like after you set off a bunch of fireworks, and the taste of the air is toxic. It's super weird, which we read. This was one of the parts of the article. The beginning parts of the article when they were like quoting him. However, the National Weather Service, I'm super intrigued to see what they're saying, the officials. So the National Weather Service issued a dense fog advisory for multiple states, suggesting there could be a scientific explanation behind the bizarre reports. While the particles may seem unusual, fog is a visible aerosol consisting of tiny water droplets or ice crystals suspended in the air at or near the Earth's surface. Shining a light in the fog makes these particles visible. Okay, so I didn't know this, and this is why I love science, science, because it gives us explanation. As for the chemical smell people have described, the fog can absorb and trap polluted air near the Earth's surface, acting as a carrier for car exhaust, industrial emissions, and the other airborne chemicals. Okay. Let's see Sarah Smith on X posting a short video.
Okay, so here's the fog in Montana. This is not normal even for Montana. It was not like this 20 minutes ago. Yes, it is snowing, but in between the snow, you can see like this misty, like steam thing. And then my husband said that there's this smell of like burning plastic. I can't smell shit right now because I'm like all stuffed up. I'm sick. But this fog is crazy. This is not normal.
Okay. When fog forms, sulfur oxides, nitrogen oxides, and other polluting gases are taken up or quote unquote scavenged by fog water droplets, explained Rudolf Husar, a Washington University atmospheric scientist, in an article for NASA Earth Observatory. What's more, smells become more potent in humid air because the water droplets trap the odor, causing molecules that allow them to linger for longer and remain consecrated. This is not unusual for this time of year. Fog forms when the temperature cools to the dew point, or the temperature at which air can become completely saturated with water. Much of the fog currently hanging over the U.S. is likely, I don't know how to pronounce this word, advection fog, which typically forms in winter when warm, moist air flows over colder land. This is commonly seen over the southern or central U.S., where many affected states are located. Some states, such as Minnesota, are also experiencing radiation fog that occurs in air with a high dew point. Okay. Yeah, we already seen photos like this. It forms when the sky is clear, temperatures reach the dew point, and winds are low enough to cause minimal atmospheric mixing. While fog typically looks like a soapy gray mist, shining a light directly through it causes the light to scatter off of each individual water droplets that makes up the fog, reflecting that light back towards your eyes. This makes each droplet appears as a small particle within the beam of light, as is shown in many of the photos and videos recently shared online. The quote-unquote chemical smell associated with this recent fog is likely not coming from the fog itself, but rather from pollutants that were already present in the air where the fog was forming. The respiratory illness-like symptoms people have been reporting can also be explained by natural fog. Multiple studies have shown that fog can cause respiratory issues such as coughing, shortness of breath, chest pain, congestion, and wheezing, especially in people with asthma. That's because our lungs are designated to inhale oxygen, not water. When we inhale the increased moisture content of the air, it can irritate the respiratory system and trigger uncomfortable symptoms. Fog can be especially irritating when it is mixed with airborne pollutants, allergens, and other particles. Gentlemen, what is it about this article where we can say, well, yeah, that makes sense? And, now when it's explained, there's like no space for anything, government or supernatural, or even though with some explanations, we still don't know how they occur, why they're so much prevalent lately, why they, still happen in so many states, why are people feeling maybe even more sick than what regular fog would cause? Any comment on that, Jared?
Yeah, this whole thing reads like gaslighting. I mean, we get the media doing this to us all the time, where they take these facts that are actual facts, that are actually true, and they use them in a way to suppress ideas instead of actually trying to illuminate something. And it bugs me because what we're seeing here is, yes, some of what they're saying is explainable that way, but the reason people are commenting on this is that it's unusually severe, it's unusually chemically, it's unusually foggy, there's an extremity to what's going on that is not normal. And this Daily Mail article reads as somebody trying to explain it away. And that just irritates the snot out of me, man. That just bugs me.
Yeah, my thoughts are thanks, CERN. We've merged with the timeline where fog can kill you. So no. But yeah, no, I totally agree with Jared. This is totally gaslighting. They're weaponizing these obscure facts, and they're saying, "Oh yeah, no, this is totally normal. You've just forgotten what fog is." Right? So it's okay, little dumb tinfoil hat wearing conspiracy theorists. We're here to educate you, cats can become dogs, women can become men, and fog can kill you. So welcome to 2025.
Okay, couple more articles, and if I find anything that is repeating, I'll just skip those parts of the article. Okay, mystery thick fog sweeps across the U.S. with burning chemical smell in the air. Okay, this is coming from theexpress.com. All the links, all the sources of information are provided in the video's description, so I gave credit to everyone. This mysterious event follows the drone saga in New Jersey that had sparked widespread debate over an impending disaster. Okay, this is the, I don't know if this is, yeah, this would be probably the front camera of someone's house. It says Florida man Aaron May captured the strange particles in the mystery fog in his Ring camera. Okay. A mysterious thick fog has swept across the U.S. with multiple communities reporting a burning chemical-like smell akin to a similar event last year when 70 million people were engulfed in a dense fog. That's insane. 70. Netizens have posted videos on social media that show white particles raining down and swirling in the air amid a blanket of thick fog. This mysterious event follows the drone saga in New Jersey that sparked widespread conspiracy theories and debate over an impending disaster. For some reason, this is not loading. Oh my gosh, all the videos are not loading. Okay, or photos. Some have claimed that the fog has caused health symptoms akin to respiratory diseases. A Florida resident stopped at the gas station for only 10 minutes when she began to feel ill, and we read this in the previous article. Similar accounts have emerged from parts of the UK and Canada that have led to conspiracy theories. And Shaun, correct me if I'm wrong, but our Canadian friend from that helps the podcast, Paul, he shared something in our group chat, also from Canada, some weird stuff, and he was saying something like, "This is my contribution to the topic." I don't exactly remember what he was posting, but there were like a couple of photos of something weird, weird stuff happening in Canada. And Paul is a guy with masters in biblical studies. He's not like a conspiracy or a crazy guy, but like, yeah, he also witnessed something, in Canada. Concerned netizens are suggested that the fog could pose an imminent threat, such as chemical weapon, or could have links to the drone event in December. Okay, now something is, let me see. Some videos are finally loaded. Almost feels like it's snowing. I don't know.
In Manchester, we've had nothing but fog for 4 days now. 4 days in a row. Normally, just behind these buildings, I can see for miles out of my window, but I haven't been able to see past these buildings here, barely seeing this main road since the 23rd of December. It's now the 27th. And I know what fog is, and I've seen fog before, but I don't think ever in my life I have seen fog like this, like a blanket covering for 4 days in a row. And it's not even like it's disappeared and then come back. It's literally just been like this constantly since the 23rd of December. Is it just me, or is that not normal? I mean, if it wasn't for the lights there and the headlights, I probably wouldn't be able to see that road at all. Earlier on today, genuinely couldn't see a thing. I literally feel like I live in a Stephen King film. But yeah, it's pretty weird. Has anyone else ever seen this before? Has anyone else ever seen 4 days, even longer, of fog continuously? Get it in the comments. But yeah, I've never seen this before. What is going on?
Fucking conspiracy theorist, but I am. And so this falls in line. What the fuck is this shit?
I'm gonna turn my flashlight on.
What is this? This is not fog. This is not.
Okay, before I continue reading, guys, what can we comment on this video? It's crazy when he pointed his flashlight, the last guy. And I'm sorry, some people are sensitive to the cuss words. It is what it is. But still, like, dude, let's say it's completely coming, as the scientists explain, by the fog catching, chemtrails or whatever, those pollutant things in the air, and now, but we're inhaling that. Like, we're breathing that. Our kids who go outside to play, when we go get groceries, when we go outside shovel, like, we breathe that. Like, for me, that's concerning. Like,
comes inside too.
How long will this stay, and how long, can there be some longer side effects that people will discover later? And I'm not going at all into conspiracy. I'm just trying to think, like, when it comes to medical side, to the health side. Jared, would you like to say something on this video?
Oh, just that anybody with two brain cells to rub together, looking at that video, looking at the particulate in the air, is going to say, no, there's something abnormal about that fog. That isn't normal fog. There's something strange going on there. Do we know what? No, we do not know what. Do I wish that I had the ability to do some chemical testing on that stuff to see what's actually in it? Yeah, actually, that would be really interesting. I wish I knew. And as to what you say, you're right. Being inside, being in your car, whatever, helps some with that stuff. But one of the things that if you're driving by an oil refinery or something and you've got your car vents running, you smell it real fast. Air doesn't stay outside. It isn't like you get separate air outside and inside. They're the same stuff. It's just you get a little bit of better filtration. Stuff precipitates out, falls out better before it comes inside a lot of times. But you're breathing the same air. So whatever's in there, it's in there. And yeah, you're breathing it. And yeah, maybe it's not very good for you, I know human beings are able to put up with a lot, though. You look at what, I don't know if either of you has ever been to China, but I know people who have been to, like, Beijing, and under normal circumstances, they have such a heavy pollution in their air that you can barely see from one building, one skyscraper over to the next one over. It's really thick. So, and people have problems, significant health problems because of that. But it takes a lot for the human body's immune system to just be overcome by this stuff. So if the question is, does the air quality affect us? The answer is yes. If the question is some small amount of pollution in our air of some kind going to kill everybody? The answer is probably not. And it depends on what you're doing. If, as I know, Shaun, you wanted to talk about, I think, sea spray at some point, but if you bring up stuff like that, yes, if somebody is intentionally putting something into the air that is harmful to us, that could actually be a serious problem. Do we have evidence that that's going on? Not really.
Yeah. Well, thank you for that segue. We know that the military has done stuff that is, not all been above board. Like, as you said, Project Sea Spray, where they went into San Francisco Bay and basically aerosolized a bunch of bacteria, and then millions of people ended up getting sick, and we know at least one person died from the event. And it wasn't until 20 years later that they actually disclosed what they were doing. So, stuff like that does happen. The U.S. government does do a lot of really weird stuff, and we're not safe from them because we got to live with them. That's why you should be pro Second Amendment. Nobody wants to face our government. We have to live with them. What I'm hearing you say, Jared, is that it's probably not safe for you, but that doesn't necessarily mean we should be wearing masks in the shower like the liberals, right?
I live my life without fear, man.
I know that we're not switching into politics, so let's continue reading this. By the way, I just saw another article. This current bizarre event is called Fogwid. That is the unofficial name until among the people in the online community. They're literally calling it Fogwid 24, and it's a hilarious name. And of course, we know what is the association to Fogwid 24. Okay, let me see. Sarah Smith has posted on X a short video. I don't know if we watched it, but let me see.
Okay, so here's the fog in Montana.
We did. This was from Montana. We see this previously. He said the fog dissipates. I'm sorry, I can't pronounce that word. Later in the day, but lingers into the night. The weirdest part is the taste and smell. It smells like after you set off a bunch of fireworks, and the taste of the air is toxic. It's super weird. Ex-user Sandra Jenkins Webb claimed that her dog was acting strange when they went outside in the fog, and we read this as well. Crystal Water, how all this comes to be. I feel like a lot of these newspaper reports are just copying from each other because we already read this. And yeah. I'll just share one more article when it comes to this, this event. And this is the title. What is smart dust? DARPA conspiracy theory surrounding abnormal fog enveloping the globe intensifies. Ooh, I love the title. Okay, let me see if this is.
So you did go there.
Yeah, let me see if this is just covering. Okay, it's not. I was like, is this covering only England or also other countries? Okay. The United Kingdom, as well as parts of the USA and Canada, have reported experiencing thick layers of fog, now being dubbed as Fogwid 24. The name has been derived from COVID-19 because exposure to this fog has reportedly made people sick with cold or flu-like symptoms. The phenomenon has now fueled conspiracy theories online. While some mention alien spores, others have called it a chemical mist. Some have even claimed that it was a methane explosion. In the wake of this, netizens have also come up with a theory that this alleged hazardous fog could be smart dust. For those unaware, smart dust refers to a kind of miniaturized and often invisible wireless devices with sensors, cameras, and communication systems that transmit data collected back to a base and then process it. In fact, the US government's DARPA, which is Defense Advanced Research Projects Agency, also has a funded smart dust project which aims to develop a sensor and communication mechanism that can be incorporated into a cubic millimeter package. That's insane. That's so super small. It is a part of the agency's SHIELD program and originated in the early 1990s. Now, amid the ongoing fog conspiracy theory online, people have speculated that the current phenomenon was linked to DARPA's smart dust venture. Here's some comments regarding the same on the social networking site X. Could this strange, and I'll quote unquote from different people, could this strange fog happening in multiple states and cities be smart dust? DARPA has a patent on smart dust back in the 90s. I'm sure it's been perfected in 2024 and the use of AI now. Another person says the fog is smart dust. Another person says, who had a mysterious poisonous fog on their bingo card for 2025? What is going on? The other person says, the fog people have been seeing. It's called smart dust, invented by Dr. Pister. PISTER. In 1997, it's used to blanket monitor communications or to detect radiation. With over 26 million illegal immigrants in America, they're sweeping concerns, another netizen wrote. And the last one, it says the smart dust now, they're just using nanotech and smart dust instead. DARPA neural networks are suspected to have infected the majority of the world's population. All around the world, what you're seeing isn't fog. Okay. Notably, there is no official confirmation that the latest mystic condition has anything to do with smart dust or DARPA. Exploring more about smart dust in the wake of the latest fog-related conspiracy theories. According to the website maize.io, smart dust refers to, quote unquote, a system of many tiny micro electromechanical systems such as sensors, robots, and other devices that can detect light, temperature, vibration, magnetism, chemicals, and other stimuli. Meanwhile, nanowork.com defines it as, quote unquote, a wireless network of sub-millimeter scale autonomous computing and sensing platforms not larger than a grain of sand. Smart dust senses and records data and transmits that data wirelessly to larger computer systems. In simpler terms, it refers to the miniaturization of technology, the concept that officially emerged in 1992 as part of a RAND, which is Research and Development Corporation project in the United States. By the mid-1990s, smart dust research had actively begun, and in the 1997, Dr. Christopher S.J. Pister, Joe Kahn, and Bernard Boser from the University of California, Berkeley, published the first notable research proposal on the concept and defined smart dust as a, quote unquote, way to deploy intelligent wireless sensors. Soon, DARPA funded the project due to its potential military applications. Of course, everything has to be politicalized or militarized, everything has to be abused. Today, smart dust has become the ultimate nanotechnology to collect data and transmit it back to the base for further analysis. The dust is now made up of micro electromechanical systems, or MEMS, also known as motes, MOTES. They now help in the detection of light, sound, humidity, stress, acceleration, vibrations, temperature, power supplies, computing, and even wireless communication in outer space. The benefit of smart dust lies in its minuscule size, which also allows it to stay suspended in the environment for an infinite amount of time. And not only that, but its components can be 3D printed, which is why it has also become a significant part of the Internet of Things, IoT, helping in its productivity, compliance, and safety. We're almost done. In 2019, smart dust was further improved when UC Berkeley researchers developed a smallest volume, most efficient wireless server simulator, which was an upgrade of steam dust, the first ultrasonic neural dust sensors created in 2016. It has applications in the healthcare industry and is intended to treat disease in real time and incorporate patient-specific approaches. It is noteworthy that there are no substantiated reports that the fog cover in the UK, USA, Canada, and elsewhere has anything to do with smart dust, and it is nothing more than speculation. Likewise, the term fogwidth 24 isn't official, but an internet coinage, and there's no confirmation from verified sources that exposure to the thick particle mist that has led to cold flu-like symptoms. However, there's the last paragraph. The condition has indeed affected the holiday season's air and train travel and motorways. Over 20,000 people in the UK and 3.8 million drivers in the USA have been impacted, as per CBS News. In the new year, the fog is expected to clear up and be replaced by rain and snow worldwide. I don't know if this is happening worldwide, if the fog is disappearing, But basically, they're saying, hey, here's some of the projects we do admit they do exist, but there is still no proof that this is related to anything of this. And this is what bothers me. Like with the thing with drones, and also with this thing, how come there's no official, logical, scientific explanation that someone will come in front of the White House? I don't count on Biden because he's unfortunately not there cognitively, but someone who will come there, some person who has, that we can trust. I mean, I don't know if we can trust them 100%, but I'm saying someone who has credibility, history of being credible, knows what they're talking about, and give us the answers when it comes to either the fog or the drones. And that's not really happening. It's silence. It's like why? But why is it silence if there's nothing to hide? If like your people are saying we're scientists, it's all normal. It's all natural. Don't worry. But still, people are experiencing some symptoms. They're saying, what is happening with these particles? Why do people have to go online and look at scientists or news reporting sites to find answers? Why is someone not coming in front of the official in front of the White House and giving answers? That's kind of it is weird. I think that even Trump was calling for Biden to come up and offer, give the answer to the whole country, because everyone is worried and they're not getting any help. Okay, Jared.
An answer to that, what I always think of in situations like this is that the government is not monolithic. And what I mean by that is we have thousands, literally thousands of different agencies that make up our government, and sub-agencies and all of these things. And so let's say that one of those tiny little sub-agencies was responsible for those drones. Let's say it was somebody who was, let's say there was a medical device that was lost that had some radioactive material in it, and there was a particular agency that was responsible for tracking that down, which seems like the most reasonable explanation I've heard. How many people do you think are in that little agency, and how many other people in the government do you think actually know what they're doing, and who exactly is in charge of all this bureaucracy? Because really they're not. There's nobody who's really in charge of the bureaucracy. It has become sort of this massive blob composed of lots of little cells that they all have kind of the same interests. They're all kind of moving in the same direction, but there's nobody who's really at the head of this thing. It's kind of just moving and it's on its own. And so what we've got is we've got this situation where there's nobody to step up and speak about this stuff. There's nobody who's really in charge. And so you can't expect intelligent behavior out of a system that does not have an intelligence at its head. Instead, you can expect that the people who are responsible for a particular set of things are probably going to, in the best way they know how, take responsibility for that and do their job. So let's say these drones were a US government operation, which seems fairly likely, and that they were flying as low as they were. That's probably because they were looking for something. Certain sensors are proximity based, so you got to be close enough to see stuff. And if that's the case, then that little piece of the government, whatever that is, they were doing their job. Their job isn't to talk to people. Their job isn't never to talk to the public. In fact, their job is specifically not to ever talk to the public. That's the case for almost all compartmented organizations in the government. So you get this stuff going on, and of course nobody's stepping forward talking to us about it. They can't. They're not allowed to. It's part of their job not to.
Shaun, before you start talking, dude, is there any resemblance with this episode and the one we did like about a month ago when those government officials were interviewed about the UFOs, and most of them were like, I don't know, I can't tell. I don't know, I can't tell. But then they were still giving some information, but that was like most of them they didn't want to share. It's like it's not completely the same thing with the those government UFO documents. I cannot compare fully with drones and now this mysterious fog happening, but at least with these things they're willing to disclose some things. But dude, it took them decades, if not a whole century. Now with these things happening, they're like completely silent, and they're like, yeah, there's no official answer, but some people are are willing to talk about. When it comes to this thing, yeah, there is similarity, but on the other side, we have to go and look our own answers, and like, how long until we can expect something official? Like, I don't know. In a way,
Why are you
both of
looking
those
for something
episodes are,
official?
yeah, both
Why
of
do
those
you
episodes
care?
are, yeah, both of those episodes are mysterious, and both of those episodes are like, there's so much data lacking, and that's what connects me to both of those.
I mean, you're right, but my question is, why do you care about the official answer? What is it in you that wants an official answer? Because that's the thing you ought to know.
Yeah, well, because whoever is running the country, I'm not saying that they will give an honest answer. I would like to hear what is the official stand about whatever is the topic. I'm not saying they will be honest, but I would like
Why
at
do you
least for them
assume?
to say.
Why is there a person who's running the country? We haven't had a person running the country since before Eisenhower.
Well, that's another topic, but I'm just saying someone should be staying there, officially and calming down the people. I don't know. Maybe I expect too much.
So okay, Jared is completely right. When I was in school for criminal justice, one thing that we learned is that the intelligence whole branch of the government, like, they don't all report to anyone. They each have their own head and they don't talk to each other. So not only do they not report to anyone, one hand doesn't know what the other one's doing. So Jared's completely right about that. Even if somebody was running that show, most of the government would have no idea about it because it's not within their jurisdiction. Secondly, I think the reason that they won't come out and make some sort of statement about it, like an official statement, is because they know that we don't trust them. But I mean, they've lied to us so often, we wouldn't believe them anyway. You're going to come out and cover this stuff up. So then they'll have little articles published that people can go find and feel like they've done something and research something. And then they would be content with that instead of being spoon-fed lies like what we've been doing for the last 20 years.
Hey, Shaun, can I just agree with you here in a strange way? There are still a portion of people who listen to what the official line is and swallow it. And when it comes to strange events like this, if somebody steps up and talks about the why anymore, those people they stand to lose those people too. So it's actually not in their interest to answer a lot of these questions, just because the people who are still listening will have a problem then, because things aren't supposed to be happening at all.
Yeah, I think many people still trust the government and the media and the news. I mean, again, I don't like going political, and I'm not really interested in that. But in the last several years, observing and listening to a lot of people at work, what they believe and where they're getting their information and the sources, many times I would be just listening. It's not my desire to argue with people, and I would listen and I would hear sometimes complete nonsense and things that are not logical. They cannot be backed up, but like they heard it on certain news stations. I'm like, oh, okay, I mean, I understand, and I understand your perspective, and I understand that you want to put your trust in one source of information, uh, but how is that working for you? So I think for our job as citizens of this country, and especially as Christians, I would think that we ought to check everything from the Bible. But because God didn't give us every answer, every solution in those 1,000 pages, I think we're supposed to use our mind and brain not just to love God and each other, but also to be intellectually honest and research for ourselves. I don't like when I talk about any topic with people, let's say flat Earth, and they're like, "Oh, I did my research." Many times when people who don't know how to properly do their research projects, they never learn how to do. They don't know what is the difference between the credible source of information and not credible. So for many people, they're like, "Oh, I did my research." Okay, what is your research? Mere googling, information, and we all do this about some things. Like when I'm googling when I want to find out some health things, or like what vitamins are the best when it comes to a certain point, I will Google. I have no problem with that. But I'm talking about something that is more important for our life. That's something we choose to believe or not believe, especially if our whole reality is almost depending on that. I would want much more deeper than mere Wikipedia, Google, dark portions of the web, like certain forums and blogs. Like, show me this in academia, show me this in books, show me this in scholarly articles, videos done by professionals. They don't always have to be PhD or masters, but someone who is credible and know what they're talking, they can back it up. So
I've got to take issue with this, man. I really do. Your reliance on people who have academic degrees as somehow being authoritative is toxic to you. It is damaging your view of the world, because those people, the only authority they have is basically coherence to a system of values and beliefs that we know to be really, really bad. Okay, if you look at the mainstream scientific academic consensus, what people call science, we know that it's wrong about a huge number of things, and they can't correct. And so when you say we need something that's more official, we need something that's more reliable, we need something that's more believable, what that really should come back to for you and for me is, how does this agree with Scripture? How does this agree with the Bible? How does this agree with the Holy Spirit? What's the Holy Spirit saying about this to his people? We need to be looking to God for our answers, not to some kind of academic establishment that has been proven not just to be wrong, but to actually be inimical to us, to be evil, and to not have our best interests at heart almost all the time.
Well, that is true. Like with religion, with theology, with science, everything can be abused. But if I would believe like conspiracy people who like just writing blogs and books versus someone who has, again, it's not just degree. For me, it will be reputation. Who is this person? Do they have peer-reviewed books and articles? This is even how Christian academia is working. I would rather trust them than some regular people on blogs and posts. But this is me.
Well, I know that's you. And what I'm saying is that I think that's a concern for you. As a brother, if I care about you, I have to tell you, I think that concerns me about you. I'm concerned for you because you trust those more.
I think we should always check the sources that are credible, but that doesn't mean
what
we
does
should
credible mean? That's the problem.
Yeah, that's a good question. So for me, regardless if it's science or religion, would be someone with a history of being credible. So for me, that shows like consistency in their approach. They're peer-reviewed.
So if they're peer-reviewed, then you have to assume they're not credible, because peer review means that they are less credible than many other sources.
No, on the contrary, that means that they have their sources correct, and that means that
have you heard of the AI model that was trained off of peer-reviewed journals that essentially became totally unreliable very, very quickly, even compared to one that was trained off of general internet sources? Fact is, peer review is a mark anymore of unreliability, not of reliability. That's just a fact.
Okay, I'll disagree, because if we will follow that way, we can throw Christian academia down the road. So that's fine. Shaun, I'm sorry.
No, I'm good. I'm enjoying this. My tinfoil.
No, I'm like, I
really
see you many times. You wanted to press to join. Sorry. Yeah.
No. Like I said, I'm just enjoying it. I agree with Nico that we need to have some sort of system in place, and I agree with Jared that the system that's in place is biased against spirituality, Christianity, truth.
Oh, I don't doubt that. I don't doubt that. Yeah, I believe that there is this grand agenda against Christianity in many ways. I just,
Well, okay.
If we will put on extreme, like I know nothing about this, but I see something, a symbol that associates me with your cult or with something, like I'll create a theory about this, and then here we have let's say a scientist who is not Christian. So we see two extremes. Usually in life, for me, I will always go in the middle of the road. But the same way I may think that this guy has something up against me as a Christian and want to present false information, I also cannot turn to this guy who has no experience when it comes to this topic in life. And we see, unfortunately,
Agreed.
many people doing this, and we see this in Christianity with flat earth, with so many things. Did we even go to the moon? All these things. And for me, I'm like, you cannot prove any, and again, I'll have to turn to academia. You cannot provide the evidence. You think you have evidence, but it's wild theories. So I'm not saying that we can always go left, but the right for me is also not acceptable. So I'm like, I can hear your stories, I can hear your sources, but give me something for me that is credible, that is firm, and let me make my own decision. But I'm not. What I try to dialogue with Jared. I'm not saying that everything on the left, and I'm just saying left, not political left, but on my left, let's say these are wild conspiracy people. On the left side, let's say it's an official science, medicine, technology, education, anything. I'm not saying everything from this side will be okay, because we know that for the last couple of decades, liberal teachings have been changing, the culture, and especially trying to combat and fight Christian beliefs. So I'm not saying that I would always go and trust on this side. I'm not saying for that. I'm saying for something scientific, like how the universe operates, laws of physics, how in this sense, we're talking about meteorology, science, we're talking about fog. I don't think I will always go to these people. I can listen to them. Maybe they'll have eyewitness reports. Maybe they'll have wild stories. And I'll be willing to listen and believe them, even though I don't know them. But I wouldn't necessarily believe their conclusion. And on the other side, I can hear from a guy or a lady who are experts in certain areas telling, well, yeah, we know from meteorology about this thing about fog, this thing. So now I have two sources of information. It's my job and my own personal understanding. How will I try to reconcile these two and come up with a conclusion? So that's why I'm trying to
I agree.
Yeah, so that's why I'm trying to
I agree that we can't accept people's wild theories and the I'm with you on that. And I don't want you to think that I am coming from a place where I'm saying we should. What I'm saying is that I find the mainstream narrative, which is often in lockstep with the academic consensus, to also be less than reliable. Now, it's probably more reliable more of the time than the wild theories are, but I would give it maybe a 60% rather than the 30 or 40% that I would give those wild theories. What is 100% is the Holy Spirit. And the Bible says he will lead us into all truth, which means I pay real close attention when I feel the leading of the Holy Spirit. And a lot of times I'll get really amazingly good information. Let me give you an example. I don't know if either of you are paying attention to what's going on in the crypto space, the Bitcoin space lately. I have some Bitcoin, and the rules were supposed to change with the IRS for how that was handled, how it was reported just recently. And so I'm like, this is a big deal for me. I need to figure out what I'm doing. And I said, Lord, show me what I ought to be, what do I do with this? And he said, don't. I'm like, what? He said, no, don't. I'm like, okay, whatever you say. Well, 3 days later, they delayed the change in reporting for more than a year. So we really do get, if we listen to the Holy Spirit, we really will be led into all truth. And that's where I get my primary source of truth, from the truth himself.
Yeah, but that doesn't okay. I don't think that the Holy Spirit works in a way that he'll download the whole article explaining everything. How is something formed? How is something affecting us? Usually we don't hear something like that. So of course, as a Christian, I would say rely on God, but it's also our job to find out sources, put them together, and to come to the intellectually honest best answer, even if we don't like that answer. In theology, in science, in medicine, and like for example, I don't want to mention names because I don't want to put podcasts necessarily in trouble. But there was a scientist in the times of COVID that was prevalent that one side hated him, hate quote unquote, and one side loved him. And people will be blaming him for proposing certain actions that people nowadays think it caused death, whatever. I don't know what is true. And everyone was attacking these doctors from conservative Christians especially. And I have a friend who is a Christian devoted person, a doctor, medical doctor. He says, don't believe all this conspiracy about this doctor. I read his book, the man is a genius. So I'm put here between two fires, so to speak. You hear all these people blaming one person for possible cause of death, and you have a person who is actually a medical doctor, my personal friend, also a Christian. We go to the same church, says, don't believe all these conspiracies. I know a bit about this man's studies and work and books. He's a genius. His textbooks are like top level. It's like nothing that people are accusing him of is not true. So that's why I'm saying it's very hard, even as a person of faith, you hear all these different things. And I'm saying, I think it's our job to come with our decision. And sometimes that can be more subjective than objective.
Trust in the Lord with all your heart and lean not unto your own understanding. In all your ways acknowledge him and he will direct your path. So yes, we do have our understanding, but we are supposed to trust in him above our understanding. That's actually really important.
Yeah. Shaun, sorry. I keep apologizing.
As to Maddie's point in the comments, there are two volcanoes that since I think the 20th of December have recently erupted. One is Kilauea, which is always active, but it is recently erupting. That was, I think, a few days before Christmas. And the other one, I think it's pronounced Ruang in Indonesia, and that one has been erupting as well. And so these are just two that I looked on the Smithsonian website, and it shows all current volcanic eruptions. And so those were the two most recent that had just started this last month, and right before the time that we were seeing some of the fog. So I think that it could be a contributor. I don't think that it's necessarily the cause of the fog 100%, but it could also be contributing some of the pollutants that we're seeing in the fog with this stuff getting up in the jet stream, and then it goes around the entire globe. I think that could be one thing that we should also be thinking about.
Yeah, it seems reasonable.
Yeah, I just want to say thanks to Matt for all this information. We did mention an hour or more ago that it will make perfect sense if the fog carries certain things in itself, if there will be either ash or something similar. So we were mentioning possible disaster, explosion, or maybe volcano. And then I was saying, like, I don't know about any active volcano, in the neighborhood, but I mean, volcano ash can travel from continent to a continent. So I appreciate Maddie's input on this. It could be also something like that. And like, we heard the explanation, the fog can catch anything that is in the air, and then it can mix with other ingredients and chemicals. And then the result can be this polluted thing that when you're inhaling, you and I, as three, let's say, relatively healthy males, it won't affect us that much. Or maybe it would, but it wouldn't be like, oh, we have to go to a hospital. But someone who's dealing with asthma or maybe elderly, they will need maybe medical assistance. So in that case, it's nothing when it comes to like conspiracy or alien or supernatural. It will be mere combo of different natural things combining, and you're just like bad luck. But yeah, okay. We covered most of the articles and videos for tonight. Any concluding thoughts when it comes to this topic? And we'll start with Jared.
Well, basically just that, we've got a lot of things that we know are going on that are abnormal. We have a lot of possibilities as to why they could be going on, and we really don't have any good conclusions. It's easy to point to a government source. It's easy to point to, it's easy to go to the things that you most want to blame when something like this happens. And we can do that. But the bottom line is we really just don't know. We know that there's an unusual amount of fog that is probably just caused by unusual weather patterns that we don't know the cause of. We have chemical smells in the fog and such that maybe they may be naturally occurring or may not. We really have no way of knowing, no idea. And We have particulate in the fog, which is obviously to anybody with eyes not normal. But again, we don't know why. It could be something like the whole dust, ash, whatever, or it could be something more nefarious, and we just have no idea. We don't know. And I don't see how to go further than that. We just don't have information.
Yeah, I agree. I think that we could conclude that there's a lot of abnormal things that are happening that are contributing to this fog, and that we could conclude that most of it is probably natural. But we also know that we can never rule out the government being nefarious. So yeah, I would say that it's safe to bet that it's probably just a bunch of things that are kind of converging together to create this fog. But anytime the government has an opportunity to weaponize something against its citizens, it seems to take that opportunity. So I think that we can't necessarily conclude that it is some sort of government agency, but I also would never rule them out. So that's kind of where I sit with that.
I also wouldn't rule out actual supernatural interference either. You know, there could be some kind of spiritual force that is doing something, and we just wouldn't know. We don't know. I have not gotten an indication from the Holy Spirit that I need to not go outside. So, you know what I'm saying? It's like we just don't know.
Get your mask on.
Jared, have you experienced any fog, especially thick fog or fog that will be lingering for a few days in your area?
So we're kind of in a weird situation. I don't know if you know the sort of the topography of the US kind of comes to a point, like a ridge right across the Rockies. And so I kind of live on the lower slopes of that. It's like 6,200 feet or something where I'm at. So we're up pretty high, and I haven't had any particular fog of any kind here, but we also haven't had any moisture for the last 3 months in particular. Like, I've been out driving. I've driven to Ohio. I've driven to Nevada. I've been all over in the past 3 months, and we haven't had a single snow day here, which is incredibly unusual. So the weather here is very unusual, but there is no fog. But that's probably just because I live, you know, the whole state has 500,000 people in it. There just isn't anybody here. So, you know, if there was something nefarious going on, it wouldn't necessarily be going on here. And if there isn't something nefarious going on, well, there's plenty of natural reason for there not to be fog here.
So yeah, what he's saying is that high up, he doesn't get fog, he gets cloud.
Well, cloud, I mean, we do occasionally get fog, but what I'm saying is just that we haven't gotten the same weather patterns here that the rest of the country has been experiencing. It has been different here, and it's just been dry.
Oh my gosh, I'm enjoying Matthew's comments. He's being so funny. Well, we managed to get to 2 hours, even though I didn't know a bit before if we would even make 2.5 hours, because the material is not that lengthy. And I think in the days and weeks to come, we may get more information on what's happening out there. I hope people will be safe. I hope it won't be harming too many people. There's a strange part of me, and I told this to Shaun before, even when we went live, and probably with some other guests, that there's part of me that wishes if there's like end time alien or monster invasion, that all of us will unite and fight together and kill the monsters and stuff like that. So when I was preparing, looking for material for this topic, I was reminded of the Carpenter's movie that came out in 1980 called The Fog. And as we know, in the last segments of that movie, which I saw many times as a kid, right, the fog comes in the church, and out of that fog, those the creatures come and they kill the priest. And I'm like, dude, will something come out of this fog? And there's a weird part of me that almost wishes there is, so we can go as humankind together and fight against monsters and zombies or whatever. I know it's a weird part of me, but I'm like, could there something be like in the movie that came out 44 years ago, 45 almost. It's like, I don't know, I don't think so, but there's like, because Jared was saying, could there be something supernatural? Could there be something evil? Not probably in that sort, but the weird me would almost desire, like, so we can, like, again, unite and fight, and like God can do in the midst of chaos and evil, he can bring something good. It's just my imagination. Anyway, brothers, thank you for your contribution. We made it to 2 hours. I'm hosting Pastor Anthony Delgado in 2 days. I hope many people will tune in. Again, your kind comments and questions are always welcome. We'll be talking about Dead Sea Scrolls. He had this privilege to see this museum where the old Dead Sea Scrolls were exposed, and 2 of them are especially interesting and important because one has to deal with gods and spiritual beings, and one has to do with curses. So we'll be tackling with especially those 2 portions of the Old Testament. So I promise it will be another fun episode. And for the next Friday and Sunday, we'll see when it comes to the episodes and guests. Jared, Shaun, God bless you. We'll see you next time. May God continue to use you and bless you and your ministries. And Jared, maybe you'll be writing and publishing a new book this year. We never know.
I hope so. And thanks for having me on, and appreciate you very much. Thank you for the discussion too. I enjoyed it. I hope you didn't feel like I was like stepping on you or something.
Okay. God bless you all, guys. I'll see you in 2 days.